Hey everybody, it's Richard Milligan, and we're back. And this time we are here to talk about jabbing on LinkedIn. So maybe this is the first time you've actually heard that term jabbing. Let me give you the context of this. LinkedIn is such a powerful platform to use, but it is a platform that's completely covered up with people that are trying to connect and then trying to extract value. This means that, and you know this, you're in the mortgage business, you get it, you have it happen to you all the time. Okay, so you're probably grinning a little bit right now. There's probably some recruiter that connected with you a week ago and then almost immediately sent you the bullet point breakdown of why you should look at their company. That's called a right hook. What has happened is that the mortgage industry is one of the most recruited industries, period. Maybe second only to pharmaceutical sales. So it's a very difficult industry to cut through the noise because your candidate, people you're recruiting, are getting 5 to 10 phone calls a week. They're getting text messages now, and LinkedIn's a place where they're constantly getting just connected and asked if things are going well, if someone can call them, if they're willing to meet with them. These are the things that LinkedIn is full of, and it's the wrong approach, unequivocally the wrong approach. Okay, so I'm going to teach you how to not right hook. I'm going to teach you how to jab. And so we're going to do some things creatively here on this particular session. We're going to go through the presentation. We're going to talk about that. I'm going to model some of the jabbing behavior because I want you to understand in full context how you can do this and how you can do it authentically where nobody really can duplicate you. Okay, there are things that interest you and things that you find of value that you can take and you can jab to people and nobody else is going to have. So understand the context of jabbing is not me taking something from my company and giving it to them. It's actually finding something that's neutral of value. Okay, so it's not me taking a great video about the culture at my organization and then sending it to somebody. That is not a jab. That's a right hook. So anything that has you interest or you vesting in it, where the expectation is they could respond back and say, hey, well, that was cool. I'm interested in your organization. Those things are all considered right hooks. So we're going to put ourselves in a different category as a recruiting leader. And what we're going to do is be all about contribution, bringing value. And I call them the value bombs. I'm simply going to bring you something and give it to you and walk away. And you're going to be like, what am I holding here? Why'd you give this to me? Like, this is pretty cool, but am I supposed to be holding this? You didn't ask me for anything. It's going to be a little bit awkward for them to receive it because they're going to know who you are, right? They're going to know you're a recruiting leader. But what I found is that when you do this repeatedly, again and again and again, a minimum of 3 times before you have a right hook, but I would love to see you go 5, 6, 7 times before you have any kind of a right hook. If you will do that, you will see huge value in this. Okay, like a story again and again and again from recruiting leaders that have done what I've asked them to do in this space, and they are reaping benefits from it. Okay, so jabbing. You understand the context around that, and you understand why we're doing it. Okay, let's go to screen share now. Jabbing on LinkedIn. That's the presentation. So we're picking up where we left off the last presentation because you started with the Jumpstart, LinkedIn Jumpstart. Now we're going through the second secret. First secret was how do you become the attractive leader on LinkedIn through LinkedIn. This one is let's throw jabs versus right hooks, right? So here's the importance of this. We're connecting and we don't have any strings attached. So I'll connect with you and simply say, thanks for connecting. Although that's kind of awkward, right? Because most of the people add something to the end of that with a question mark, like how are things going? Or how's your company doing? Or, can we meet? Those are the things that people ask. So begin doing this, okay? It will bring a lot of value. Now, a jab means something of value has been given. Okay, no strings attached. What we're trying to do is activate the law of reciprocity. The law of reciprocity simply says that if you give something of value to someone enough times, they feel inclined to contribute value back. Okay, so we're just going to try and activate the law of reciprocity. A right hook is an ask for value to be given. Meet with me, right? I mean, that would be something of value. Take my phone call. That'd be something of value. So we're going to avoid those at all costs. We are not going to ask questions. In fact, I'll teach you how to jab, where you basically will send a message with something attached that says, I found this of value, my team found this of value, I wanted you to have it, I hope all is well. Boom, that's all we're going to do, and we're going to move on. This is the quickest way to recruiting success. I promise you, this is the quickest way to recruiting success, and here's why. LinkedIn provides such a wide funnel, right? Think about it. You've seen the Duck Soup training, and if you haven't, you need to go check that out. You're going to be able to connect with several thousand people a month using that tool. And so think about it. How many people can you call in a week as a recruiting leader? You wear the other 12 to 15 hats, right? That are required to maintain your role as a leader in the organization. And so recruiting is just another hat that you wear. How many phone calls can you make a week? 15, 20, 25? I mean, 15 is a good number, I found. So 15, I mean, you could multiply that out over the course of 52 weeks. That's 780 is the number, I believe. That's the number of phone calls that you can make over the course of the year. You can connect with 1,500 to 2,000 people every single month on LinkedIn. So that funnel's really wide at the top versus our phone funnel, which is more narrow at the top. This just means that if I do this right, I can filter more people through it, and where people lean in, then I can lean in, okay? We want to bring over the top value in your jabs. Okay, so you don't need to be thinking about content creation here. A great book written by a guy, I think his name is Austin Kleon. He wrote a book called Steal Like an Artist. And what he did was he studied artists. And what he found in studying artists is that all artists steal from other artists. What they actually do is they steal the things that they like the most, and they steal this from enough artists that they end up with their own idea. Okay, so what I'm saying is this with that analogy. Just steal like an artist, okay? You got guys like Carl White and Scott Hudspeth, both those guys with the Mortgage Marketing Animals. They've been doing content for well over a decade, maybe two now, right? Lots of content out there on YouTube, just doing organic Google searches, going to video blogs. Rick Ruby with The Core, another guy who does a lot of video content. Todd Duncan with High Trust Sailing, Sailing or Sales, I think is what he calls it. He does a lot of content. All of this stuff is available. You have things like TEDx Talks that you can go and find. So there's tons of great material, whether you want to do video content and send that to people, whether you want to do, articles and send that to people. A ton of articles written by top producers. Magazines like Scotsman's Guide actually has a lot of articles that they've written on production and producing. These are all places you can go to just take that and then give that to somebody. So I'll model that for you here in a second. But here's my measuring stick for this. Is it so valuable that they would pass it on to somebody else? Okay, think about that. If it's so valuable that they'll take that, if you send that to me, I'm a branch manager, and it's so valuable that I would share with my loan officers, you're doing good. That's the measuring stick. I want them to say, that was so awesome, I'm going to pass this on to other people. Okay, so here's an example of a jab that I've done. I came across a recorded webinar by Andy Andrews. Andy Andrews has written dozens of books, and if you don't know who he is, The Traveler's Gift is one of his more popular books. He's written The Noticer Returns, The Lost Choice. Those are all great books. But he's got maybe 30 books that he's written, I would say, if I'm guessing. And he is, New York Times bestseller again and again and again. Probably one of the greatest storytellers of our time. If you haven't heard a story by Andy Andrews, simply go to YouTube and Google Andy Andrews Butterfly Effect. An incredible story. He got paid by the U.S. government to develop that story for our military men and women with a specific intent to solve a problem with that story. An incredible storyteller. He did about an hour-long webinar on storytelling. And of course, storytelling is an important principle that you've heard me talk about before that you have to incorporate into recruiting. So I took this little message right here, put it together with the actual link to the Andy Andrews storytelling webinar replay, and I've sent that out to lots of leaders with some nice context around it. So it's not mine, it's somebody else's. I put a little bit of material around it and I sent it out. But I'm not asking you to put all that material around it. I'm simply saying You could take something, a value bomb, and put a couple of sentences in front of it, a sentence after it, and push the send button. And with Duck Soup, you can automate sending that to thousands of people. Okay, so there's an example jab. You can pause the video and watch that. Now, one of the things you're going to get is you're going to get this document, how to create your own jab, jab, jab process. Okay, so we want to focus on giving value once a week. Now, Duck Soup is going to automate this for you. And if you've got questions about how to automate this, just go back to the Duck Soup training again and again until you figure that part out. The reason why I include Duck Soup training in this is because there's not any good Duck Soup training out there. There's a couple of videos on YouTube that are like 3 to 5 minutes long. So that will help you understand how to do this. But here's what we're going to do. In week 1, we're simply going to connect. And maybe as a part of week 1, we connect and then we send a thank you. Okay. In week 2, send an article and say, hey, I thought you'd find this interesting. Have it something related to what they do in the mortgage business. Week 3, go find an article on top things that, top loan officers and their behaviors. What are some things that they do? You can find those. They're out there. That would be a nice touch for week 3. Week 4, if you're pursuing branch managers, maybe you could put, here are the 3 things you've learned about recruiting and share that. In week 5, we're still around the beginning part of the year as I'm doing this video in February. Like, there are videos out there on things that you can do, disciplines that you can have in order to make this year your biggest year yet. Go find one that you find interesting and then share it. Week 6, what to do the first 2 weeks of the year to ensure it's your best. Again, that's out there. I found it. There are things out there around that you can use. Week 7, how to develop good habits. Week 8, my approach to goal setting. Week 9, why I believe having accountability is so important. I'm really just putting these out there to stimulate some ideas. And here in just a moment, I'm going to, in fact, let me just drag it across right now to the screen. I'm just going to model this utilizing LinkedIn. Okay, I just have opened up a YouTube, I said LinkedIn, I meant YouTube. I've just opened up a YouTube browser, and now I mentioned Carl White. Just do a Carl White mortgage marketing animal search. There he pops up, 203 results. Holy smokes, we've got a lot of options here. And then how about this? If I scroll down very quickly, I can see there's a lot of good information here. How about this? This is one that he did with his agent mastermind classes. This is for real estate agents, most likely. More how to manage all your social media in only 10 minutes a day. How about that? I could take the link, put a couple sentences around it and say, hey, me and my team found this of value and I wanted to share it with you. I thought you'd find value in it as well. Hope all is well. Okay. I just did that in a couple of seconds. Here's a guy. There's a gentleman who wrote the book called Take the Stairs. Rory Vaden's his name. Okay, there he is. So this guy wrote a book. He's an amazing speaker. I came across a TEDx talk. I don't see the TEDx talk here, but I promise you that if you were to look at any of those, there'd be great content there. And these are things that are just original, authentic to me. You may have never heard of Rory Vaden, but I have, and I have enjoyed specifically a TEDx talk that he did on how to multiply your time. There it is. How to Multiply Your Time, Rory Vaden, TEDx. 18 minutes long, a really impressive speech with a really unique perspective. And this is something that I came across that's unique to me. You probably haven't ever seen this before, okay? Now, to continue this, let me give you another example of this, of what would be unique to me and how you could do this. There's a TEDx talk out here by a lady that talks about teaching your teenagers how to have grit. Angela Lee Ducksworth is her name. I came across this a while ago when I was searching, how do I raise kids that are not entitled? So I've got a 15-year-old and I've got 3 behind him that are younger kids. This is something that connects with me. And again, this could be something that connects with a lot of people, right? How do we teach our kids the power of passion and perseverance? How do we teach them grit? I could choose this, and I bet you probably haven't seen this, and I could share this as a jab and just put a couple sentences around it. Again, I would just say, hey, came across this video when I was searching for some great resources on how to teach my teenager grit. Thought it was really a really impressive talk, and I wanted to share. I hope you find value in this. No one's going to duplicate that. Okay, so I just showed you in the matter of just a couple of seconds how you could go through, beyond the connection, the week 1. I'm now into week 4 and really week 5 because I've done my 3 jabs, and it took me less than a minute to model that for you. Okay, so I don't want you to overthink this. I just want you to do it. Be an activator with this. Okay, don't worry about perfection. Simply worry about activating, because the person who activates this is the person that's going to win. People, what I found is this: do this for 5 weeks, 6 weeks, 7 weeks, and start smiling, because what I'm telling you right now is going to come to fruition. You're going to find that people are going to start leaning in. People are going to start saying things like, thanks, I've read several of those and they brought me a lot of value. I appreciate that. People are going to start being weird. Excuse me. People are going to start being weird, and they're going to start asking questions like, why are you sending these to me? I like them, but what's in it for you? Because they don't know what to do with it. Because people are throwing bomb after bomb after bomb, right hook bombs on LinkedIn. Okay, so let me give you an example of why this is so powerful. I have almost 18,000 connections. Do you know over the past 36 months how many people have jabbed me? One person has jabbed me. And that person jabbed me 3 times and then disappeared. About the time, I was seriously thinking, I'm going to ask him why he's jabbing me, because they were nice touches. They were things that brought value to me. And then suddenly he disappeared. Okay, this is how you stand out in recruiting, is this. Take this, you're going to get this document, create your own jab process, and then just execute on it. Okay, it's a few minutes with Duck Soup. It's a few minutes if you understand how to use Duck Soup to do this, and it is so valuable to you. Okay, so let's talk about secret number 3 here. Number 1 was in the prior video. This is number 2 and number 3. The power of having a system or a process with LinkedIn. I want you to create something you can sustain. The older I have gotten, here's the truth. I'm in my mid-40s right now, and as I get older, what I realize is that fairy tale of the tortoise actually beating the hare that we all heard when we were little kids actually is truth. And here's why. Short-term dynamic energy loses over long-term sustainable energy. Okay? I'm just talking about taking a few minutes a day and saying, I will make a long-term commitment to this and do this. Again, if I go back to just last summer, when I'm doing some things like posting, I really feel like someone's standing I'm the only person standing in the room. But now here I am, 8 months later, and I'm getting 30 and 40,000 views on some of my posts. My voice hasn't changed. My behavior hasn't changed. What has changed is I've grown my network, my connections, and I've sustained my behaviors. Okay, so I'm showing you a process around this. Duck Soup's going to really allow you to do this in just a matter of a few minutes per day. Just do it. Okay, so how to build a sustainable yet successful process. Focus on giving value to your top recruits. You need a top recruits list. Okay, one of the attachments here is going to be a recruiting score sheet. Now we'll talk about this in a later lesson. I want you to have it now, and I want you to start thinking about it. But you need to have a top recruits list. As a minimum, have a 30-person top recruits list. Okay, if you want to know how to generate that very quickly, simply go to my phone scripting training, and I show you how to do that. I model that behavior on that phone scripting piece on how to develop your top recruits list. You need a top recruits list, and as a minimum, if you're not going to jab a larger audience, I want you to jab the people on your top candidates, your top recruits list. Okay, that's sustainable. If you have a top 30 recruits list, that's just one person per day. You can do that. Okay, the other thing is this: build templates you can use again and again. Once you use a jab, you can use that jab over and over again as new people come into your network. There's no need to build a ridiculous amount of brand new material. Simply have a place like a Google Doc or a Word doc or in your email where you store the things that the template of what you send. You're going to cut and paste that into Duck Soup. You're going to turn Duck Soup on, and you're going to hit send. or you're gonna hit activate, turn it on. And if you don't want to do that, then simply put it in a place where you can go back to it again and again, and do this with your top 30 recruits list if you're not going to do it with the larger list. Okay, talked about this already. Daily habits went over short-term spurts of high effort. Right, Pete. This is not P90X for mortgage recruiting. Right, if you've ever done P90X, which I have a couple of times, you are miserable for the 90 days that you're doing it, because you are totally doing things that your body has never done before. And so this is not that. I want this to be sustainable. This should be your career could change very dynamically just because you make a commitment to making this a daily habit. Post a minimum time of once per day. Okay, we've talked about that already. And then I want you're going to get this here. I want you to track your behaviors. Now, let me explain this to you, and I'll explain this again in another training, but at a high level, what I want you to do is I want you to start keeping score of your activities right now. Okay? What you're going to do is write the behaviors in here, right? Turn duck soup on 1 time per day and create a search criteria. The goal for the week is to do that 5 times. I do it on Monday, do it on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. That's the behavior. That means I would score a 5. And then if I do it 5 times, then I achieved a 5. If I did it 4 times, I achieved a 4, and my net score is a -1. If I achieve a 5, my goal is 5, my net score is 0. Okay, now every behavior that I'm asking you to do, I want you to start adding onto this weekly recruiting scorecard and start keeping score. Now, what I have found is that a good goal number falls somewhere between 80 and 100 in terms of activities. You can do this within 30 minutes a day, 5 days a week, and you can get an 80 to 90 score. And if you increase your time, you can get upwards of 100 to 120. Okay, so you're getting this. Activate on that now, and then we'll go over this again later on. But I just want you to start writing down the behaviors as we go along to make sure you understand what you need to be doing in order to be successful. Okay, I think that's it. You got it. Just do it. We'll see you in the next session.